In the years following the War of the Ring, as the great realms of men and elves turned to rebuilding and healing, the small town of Bree nestled quietly behind its hedge, far from the grandeur of Minas Tirith or the fading woods of Lothlorien. Bree was a crossroad of old ways, a meeting place for men, hobbits, and the wandering folk, who still clung to the wild edges of the world. But peace is not absent of evil. Sometimes peace lets it grow unnoticed. It began with a smell. The folk of Bree were used to the earthy reek of the East Road and the sharp tang of pipeweed, but this was different. A sickly sweet scent drifted in the early morning mist, curling down the cobbled lanes, clinging to the mossy fences. Dogs barked at nothing, horses grew restless in their stalls, and the crows gathered thick and silent in the trees by the old butcher's lane. The butcher was called Harlon, a man of few words, born and bred in Bree, son of a leather worker and a hedge witch who died in the fell winter. Harlon inherited the shop when he was young, always had meat to sell, even when hunting was scarce. He smoked his own cuts, made blood sausages rich enough to draw dwarves off the road, and always had stew simmering when the watchmen passed by. When the disappearances began, no one thought to look at Harlon. At first it was only travelers, a Dunlending woman headed south to Tharbad, a tinker from the Shire, a Gondorian veteran on leave, seen once at the pony, never again. Bree folk shook their heads, muttering about wolves in the Chetwood or the last roaming band of orcs. Even Barleyman Butterbur said it was none too strange. Folk go missing all the time, these dark years. But then young Elsie Noakes vanished. She was 12, a weaver's daughter, last seen picking wild mint by the east gate. They found her ribbon on the path, and a single shoe. Folk started whispering. The Breeland wardens doubled their rounds. Rangers, few though they were, began passing through more often, silent and grim. One of them, a weathered man named Thandor, came to Harlon's shop and stood long in the doorway, watching the butcher at work. "You've good hunch, friend," he said, eyes cold. Harlon only nodded. "Wild boar. Came down from the downs." But there were no boar left in the downs. That night, Thandor went missing. His horse was found outside Bree, reins torn, foam at the mouth. His cloak, pierced through with a butchering hook, lay in the ditch. Then the dreams began. Children woke screaming, claiming they saw a pale man standing at the foot of their bed, humming in the dark. Women heard knocking beneath their floors, and always the smell of smoke and iron and rot. A council was held in the old watchhouse. Butterbur, the blacksmith Harn, old Matt Heathertoes. They argued until dawn. Finally, they agreed to send for someone who knew how to deal with such things, a Dunedain. She came on the 5th night, tall, hooded, bearing a sword older than the North Kingdom. Her name was Gaelin. She did not speak much, but she walked the streets in silence, nose to the wind, and when she passed Harlon's shop, she stopped. "There's death in that smoke," she said. The next evening, Gaelin returned. This time, she did not knock. She broke the door with one blow and descended into the cellar. What she found was not a man, but a cavern of bone. Skulls stacked like firewood, runes carved in dry sinew, hooks lined with skins that were not boar, not deer, nor cow. And at the center, Harlon himself, naked, pale, smeared in blood and ash, chanting in a tongue no longer spoken even in Mordor. He turned, smiling, and said, "You came late.
The stew is done.
Galen slew him, though he did not bleed as a man should. His body hissed, steaming like fat and fire. Beneath the floor, they found a tunnel, old, far older than Bree. It led into the Barrow Hills. They collapsed the cellar, bricked it over, burned the shop. But some nights, when the moon is thin and low, travelers claim they smell smoke on the wind. And meat. Always meat. And in the hedge beyond the east gate, sometimes you find bones. Small ones. Clean.